time when old films are making a comeback in theatres, Asian Paints is reviving and bringing back its classic, Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai. Originally released in 2002 and written by Ogilvy's Piyush Pandey, this film is about to hit our TV screens very, very soon. To tell us more about this campaign, we are joined in by Asian Paints' Amit Syngle and Ogilvy's Piyush Pandey. Welcome to CNBC TV18.
Thank you so much. Why?
Amit, let's begin this conversation with you. We will speak about bringing back this classic Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai. But before that, I wanted to understand the kind of impact that this film had back in 2002 when it was released.
So, okay, when in 2002, when we brought this entire campaign, it was literally getting on to a new corporate positioning, and that was all about homes very strongly. And we felt at that point of time that, there was a change from people kind of just celebrating festivals to people really celebrating the home very strongly. And we felt that the whole area of the high voltage emotion which is there, it is about making your home. Asian Paints wanted to be part of that emotion. And that's how, we thought that this whole area of appropriating homes became very, very strong. And when we kind of put on to this concept and started looking at thinking what we could do about home, it was, I think, with Piyush and Ogilvy that we worked very strongly, and we saw that there was a golden thread in terms of what we found in terms of Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai, because it reflected the thought so beautifully in terms of people taking pride in their homes, and not only the pride, but looking at that whole emotion which people put. Their personality reflects in terms of the home which is made, and therefore Asian Paints wanted to own that emotion strongly, and that was the birth, the genesis in terms of really getting home very strongly into the Asian Paints kind of really brand wagon, and also looking at appropriating the whole essence of home in a very strong manner. So that's how the birth of Har Ghar Kuch kind of took place.
And let's get it straight, you are not touching the film at all. You are re-releasing it as is, the same voice of Piyush Pandey, the same ad film, the same visuals. Piyush, over to you. Since you have written this ad, tell us more about the timeless aspect of
I
this
think
commercial.
it's much bigger
Yeah.
an idea than people at the time of writing. I also didn't realize how big it was. In fact, when I wrote it, what Amit just said, we were looking at in terms of the big thing about my home. People were setting up homes. If I go to Shibani's home, it'll have some touch of her personality, and that's what I honed in on. I still remember that wonderful afternoon, early afternoon, when I called up Amit, and Amit and KVS was there. I said, "Yeah, क्या कर रहे हो?" And they say, "यार क्या कर रहे हो? Office में काम कर रहे हैं." I said, "Leave everything, drop it, and come to my office. I have something for you." And they were and we were such a team. And those days, they dropped everything and came. And I had just written it in one flow. I had not even changed one bindi. They came, and I read out. And what you see today, there's not a change at all. I read it out. All three of us had moist eyes that we have it. And that's how it began. And today when it comes back, see, number of things happened in the interim. Number of times, Amit also said, "Yeah, ये तूने लिखा है." It is actually a brand philosophy of Asian Paints that you've written. You've not written a paints ad. It is, we are going into kitchens, we are going into that. हर घर कुछ कहता है, हम बहुत कुछ कह रहे हैं. So I think it became such a big phenomena, and it was not selling any category of paint, or it was selling a feeling of owning a home and giving it a stamp of your own. Shivani's stamp would be different. The gentleman who's shooting this thing, his home will have a touch of his own
Personality.
I will have a touch of my own. Amit will have a touch of it. So it is such a universal idea. And as he said earlier, it is timeless, ageless. To bring it back is bravery on the part of Amit and his team, that मेरी property, yaar, it is not something that I can't use it. It is, I created it. I feel that it should run again. I'm not going to be carried away what people say. या थोड़ा मॉडर्नाइज कर लो, या थोड़ा म्यूजिक चेंज कर लो. नेवर. इफ यू हैव अ कोहिनूर, डोंट टच इट.
Was it always going to be your voice
No.
for Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai?
No, when we were doing it, for the reference, I said I will do it, and I did it, and to me it sounded good, and so then one of the promoters of the company, who was known to Mr. Bachchan, uh, he said, "Yeah, why don't we use Mr. Bachchan?" So I said, Mr. Bachchan, of course we can." So Amit was given the responsibility of getting in touch with Mr. Bachchan. Ultimately, it came back to me. You are the one who knows Mr. Bachchan, so you go. So there was some studio in Andheri where Mr. Bachchan was uh, watching one of the films that he had done, some work he was doing there, and the appointment was fixed for me to go there, and I knew him. So I said, he said, "Oh, Piyush, kya hai there, dikhao." So I ran the film, and he says, "Don't touch it. Run it the way it is. I don't think I can do more than what you've already done." So rest is history.
Absolutely. And
I haven't got a bigger compliment in my life. Could have been only for one ad, but it was there.
And this is not the first and the last time that you have lent your voice for an Asian Paints campaign. Of course, we know the pandemic one for the quarantine, Har Ghar Chupchap Se Kuch Kehta Hai. And the story behind it, of course, is very famous, where you did the voiceover in a cupboard. But Amit, tell us more, okay? What was it like to work with Piyush for the first time? You've been with Asian Paints for decades. Piyush has worked on the brand for so many years.
So when I joined, as a young MT, I always used to hear Piyush in some of the conferences, and I used to always get enamored when he used to speak about his films. And he had his favorite brands in terms of what he used to speak about, in terms of what he has done. And I was always thought that this is magical stuff in terms of what his touch brings onto the table. And I think the first opportunity I had when I started heading marketing, and that was the time. And I think the genesis was Har Ghar, that we first came in contact with really working on a campaign. So I think it was amazing.
Which
because
year was this?
Sorry, this was 2001 when we started working with him, and 2002 was this campaign which he kind of really brought about. And I think it was magical, because what I thought was that Piyush's touch with the consumer of really, and he would always say that, I don't really want to kind of research this, I don't want to kind of get into your research in terms of what comes in, and everything used to come from the heart in terms of his feel, his touch of the pulse in terms of what comes in. And that is where I thought I loved in terms of the ideas which he used to bring onto the table. And as I said, that we only had an idea of a larger thing of owning the home, but owning the home in this way of Har Ghar, the way it kind of really bloomed up, I think was magical in terms of what he brought in to that extent. And that is something which always has been my fancy, that today Piyush has got his own magic, and it's not only the voice. Voice is something which we discovered as an ancillary which came into that extent. But what was, I think, great was his creative genius in terms of really touching the pulse. And I think that is something we always consider, that at Asian Paints we've been lucky that Piyush has always been the custodian of the brand, literally. And it's been always so great that today it has been a learning. It has been also something which is a celebration of the brand, which we have always done with him and with Ogilvy in terms of doing it to that extent.
As they say, na, ki tali do haath se bajti.
दो हाथ से बजती है.
So I got the opportunity, I got the freedom, I got the liberty, and I got the license
Yeah,
that I can think without having been asked to do something.
yeah.
And that's what creates magic, and that's what we did together. And lots of stuff we
Yeah,
did.
and,
when he was younger also, when he was not going to be the boss, we did a lot of stuff on Hamara Wala Blue and Tumhara Wala Blue,
absolutely.
the cricket scenario. And I still remember the one that I really loved was at Janmashtami. There was a picture of Krishna, and one of my colleagues had written Mera Wala Blue. And I just walked in and I said, "Nahi, isko main katta hu." I cut out the Mera and I said, "Meera Wala Blue." So these are magical moments. We had already shared Mera Wala Blue with them, And I picked up the phone, उसको मैंने मीरा वाला blue कर दिया. Then they said, ah, कर दिया ना, खेलो.
No, I think it's this magic, and I also said that, the whole thing, I always say that the voice really worked magic for us. It was, something very different. It set apart in terms of the whole advertising world, where, there were theories about what kind of voiceover you should be using to that extent. And here we went with someone who had a very distinct, very different kind of a voice, which came into that extent. And the credibility came in because what he spoke was also written by him to that extent. So that added to the whole credibility. And I can just tell you
The
that after
conviction in
that,
what he said
we
also.
never left
Yeah.
him. We
Yeah.
kind of kept on using the voice, and we never paid him for the voice, actually, to that extent.
Other day I asked him, I said, you owe me 90 rupees.
I'm sure. And last time I met Amit, he made a very shocking revelation that we also spoke about the relations that he has with the dealers and the retailers and the contractors. And he said that he knows 8,000 retailers on first name basis.
I'm
And
not
of course,
surprised.
yes. And
I'm not surprised.
have you had?
I've been in those
Yeah,
meetings many times,
yeah.
and I've seen it. When I've seen it out there, it blows my mind that in that kind of an atmosphere of a dealer conference, when you find it difficult to remember anything, he remembers names
Yeah,
of everyone and names of families.
families.
Not just the person you deal with, but the families that they come from. It is amazing, and I think that's what makes for a brand to have a culture of owning everyone in the team as families, treating everyone like families, and that's what speaks in the marketplace.
On that note, it is time for a short break. You don't go anywhere. This conversation is about to get even more interesting. Welcome back. In a special chat, I'm catching up with Piyush Pandey and Asian Paints Amit Syngle. Around the same time last year, Piyush, I met you at Ogilvy, where you announced that you will be in an advisory role at Ogilvy. When you heard that for the first time, and such a long-standing relation with Piyush, what was your first reaction, Amit, when you heard that?
No reaction. We said that, Piyush has always been with us. He's always going to be there. He's the brand custodian. So from that point of view, we just felt that, Piyush's hand is always there. It will always remain to that extent. We never felt any difference. And even today, he's just a phone call away. So whether he's in an advisory position or he's in an active executive position, I don't think so that Piyush's commitment, Piyush's kind of relationship with the brand has changed. And I think that is something which is amazing, that he brings onto the table, that today I can reach him at midnight and say, Piyush, this is what we are thinking. What do you think about this? Okay. So I don't think so that has made any difference, because today I think this relationship which you spoke about with the retailers, that relationship extends to people, extends to agencies in terms of what we work. Now it is over more than 3 decades working with Ogilvy to that extent. And it's not only Piyush. I think we work with so many people on the creative who have worked with us. They've always remained with us. And therefore we felt that, I think there was an element of only elation, saying that, hey, Piyush is always going to be around. And that is something which what matters.
Relationships are formed by many people. When I joined the company and I was working on Asian Paints in the mid-80s, Mr. Ibrahim was there.
Yes.
Very senior person. I mean, you joined in 85?
Yes. Yes.
He was a kid. I was a kid out there. Mr. Ibrahim was a person with the lifetimes, this thing. But the relationship that Mr. Ibrahim had with Money Air of Ogilvy was the way we have the relationship today. So on and on. I think some things are about chemistry. And the chemistry between Asian Paints and Ogilvy is not our doing. We actually inherited and built on it and took it forward each
Absolutely. Time. And as he very interestingly spoke about this campaign, another campaign in the same thing, around we were, I think, sitting on 1st of August, and Piyush called me up and said, let's do something around the Independence Day. Okay. And his brilliance in terms of saying, let's speak about this Har Ghar Tiranga. Okay. And, in just about 10 days, we turned it around. It was not something which was a professional shoot. It was just visiting situations where there is the Tiranga, which people have put at their homes, and how it is fluttering in terms of its own pride, in terms of what we brought in. And the whole area, the whole ad which we run, it was something which he wrote it down. He gave his voice to it to that extent. And it was something where in the entire ad, there is no Asian Paints. It's
Not said, not shown, and we spoke about it. Youngsters were a little worried. यार ये क्या कर रहे थे? And we said we own Har Ghar Kuch Kehta hai. We will not say it, and people will know who's saying it. And it's something that I get moist eyes every time I see it. In the last lines of that say, हर घर चुपचाप से ये कहता है कि कोई आज़ाद आज़ाद देशवासी यहीं पे रहता है. It's was written from here, released from here without a name. So I think these are things that one would remember always.
Amit, I know that you are unfazed about the competition coming in this this industry. But tell us, what has the year been like for Asian Paints so far? Action-packed, what I can see, you have expanded your presence in home decor. You've also launched Neo Latex Bharat earlier this year. So tell us, how has the year been? What is the demand like?
So overall, I would say that the year has been a little bit challenging in terms of, from a point of view of demand conditions. I think have been a little bit more kind of challenging as we have seen this year as compared to possibly what we would have seen in the last about 3.5, 4 years to that extent. But I guess I think it's part of a little bit of cyclicity in terms of what we are seeing. So long as you see that possibly it's where the entire industry is kind of seeing the same thing. It doesn't really matter because you are kind of leading the industry very strongly, and therefore our entire aim is to kind of keep on looking at saying that what is the new thing which you can bring to the industry as a leader. How can you really expand the market for much more? How can you look at increasing the per capita consumption more? What are the innovation cycles which you are bringing into the picture to that extent? And that's been the story of what we brought in Neo Bharat very strongly, because we felt that let's kind of delve deeper into the the bottom of the pyramid and look at in terms of what is the flavor we can bring. And there is the larger market in terms of what you are opening up for the entire industry in terms of what we want to look. So you're adding up more than 5,000 crores of kind of business which kind of is there for a taking, and getting the unorganized customer to an organized kind of brand in a very strong manner. And not only that, I think the whole area in terms of what we keep on looking at bringing a lot of newer things. If you look at from the point of view of this whole evolution into the share of space, okay, the whole endeavor is that can we be part of the decor life cycle of the customer, right from the point when the customer first rents a house, okay, and then purchases the first house, then renovates the house, gets into a second house, and then really starts purchasing a house for the kid to that extent. Can you be part of that real decor life cycle and therefore really own up the category far more strongly, rather than only saying that I am only about that paint and people will come only to me when it is about paint to that extent.
Yeah.
So I think this whole orientation of home decor is something which is very strong, which we are bringing onto the industry. We feel that right now it's a bit nascent in terms of what is there. Last 4 years we have given it a punch in terms of what we are doing. It's also something very different in terms of what we are adding. But I think the good thing is it really complements the core business, and it lies in this space of Har Ghar, which we are reliving now every day, and it is so relevant to all the segmentations in terms of what we see to that extent. So I think that's the great thing in terms of what we are bringing. And as far as new competition is concerned, I think competition has always been there, okay? And I think so long as you believe that your brand is something which is doing stuff which is lying in the innovation space, you are doing something different, you are really taking the entire category ahead, I think we are unfazed about anyone new coming and really kind of really disrupting the whole game.
Yeah, and finally, before we go, since you mentioned the first half of the year has been challenging, but we are looking forward to the festival season. So, what are
Absolutely.
your expectations from the festival?
So we are looking at lots of newer launches. We are looking at launching one of our biggest color forays. It's called the biggest color shade card of the world, literally. We are talking of a new compendium. We are talking of 5,000 shades for the first time, which is kind of coming. Not only that, we are talking of 2 or 3 big products which are also coming on the anvil in terms of what possibly comes in during the season and after the season continues to that extent. And therefore, as I said, I think the whole story of really looking at something new, something which really invigorates the agency. And not only that, we are talking of bringing one of the formats in terms of home decor which the world has not seen. Okay, and we will be unveiling that in Q3 to that extent, which would be, I think,
Remind
something
me,
very different.
you talked about 5,000 shades. 90s, early 90s, we were doing 151 shades.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
Wow, from 151 to
Mera wala
5,000
blue,
shades.
mera wala pink, mera wala cream. That was shade card with 151 shades. We're talking about 5,000.
And you remember the campaign which we did around 151? There was this whole thing of, a lady selecting a shade, and she reaches out to this 151 shade card, which she unfurls from the
On the
second
top.
floor, and it comes to the ground floor, and she's hunting for that Mera Wala blue.
अब सोचो कौन से फ्लोर पे जाना पड़ेगा.
पर उसके मजे यही थे कि that was also based in an insight that you and I love a color, but we don't know the shade names the way they are described in a paint company, whether Asian Paints or anybody. We can't say, I want that emerald blue, the something. We like that blue, yaar, वो मेरा वाला है. The entire campaign
Absolutely.
was, I know which one is mine, but I don't know the name.
Yes, yes, yes.
And this Mera Wala, we've really carried that. So now it is Mera Wala sofa, for example.
Correct.
So we really carried the property of Mera Wala strongly forward because it is so kind of natural that people have got that into their lingo in terms of saying Mera Wala kind of a thing. So I think that's how possibly we see that how the categories are connected in terms of looking at one category really kind of propelling the other category so strongly in terms of how we see.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing these insights and congratulations on bringing back a classic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
With that, it's a wrap. Goodbye.